Okay, with me once again on a brand new Take Aim Outdoor podcast is Tim Clark from Red Dog Outfitters. Tim has been with me on the show for the past couple, maybe even third year now. He gives me the rundown on everything that's going on from Kansas, Nebraska, and kind of the story and in-season report on that part of the country for deer hunters. So excited to have Tim back. He's basically just getting in the start of things, but we get to talk about everything from some new land to deer and everything good in between that. All right, guys, we're back. New episode of Take Aim, and once again with me is Tim Clark from Red Dog Outfitters. What's up, Tim?
Oh, just getting ready for season again here. It feels like it was pretty much September basically this morning, and the season's just flying by like crazy. I got people coming in this Friday already for Kansas, and we've already had hunters in Nebraska, so just trying to stay ahead of everything.
Man, that's crazy. I mean, I know you just said it, but man, it is crazy to think that it's already like October. What are we at, 22nd?
21st, I believe.
Or 21st? I mean, no, 22nd. Absolutely nuts. I can't believe how fast the start of this deer season is already going. It's just kind of mind-blowing.
It is. You know, the thing that sucks about it is that when it goes by this fast, when you're anticipating it, it's going to be gone before we know it. And we'll be, you know, moving into the new year, planning next year's hunts before, like, next week probably it'll be feel like.
It will, for sure. I mean, I was actually, funny you brought that up, thinking about that today, that, you know, like, I guess maybe it's something to do with getting older every year, and another year of hunting kind of comes and goes. And I was just thinking, like, man, just whatever I do, if it's one more day, one more hunt, just do it as hard as I can this season, because there's nothing guaranteed for next year, and these seasons are coming and going faster and faster as I age, so to speak.
Yeah, they are. It seems like the more things we get involved in, too, it seems like it just makes time go by a little more seamlessly, and, you know, especially with kids and dealing with their schedules. We just did my son's 6th birthday on Saturday, and I should know it was the 22nd. That was his birthday, so but as I said, I'm kind of running behind as is, but no, we just started a hunt last week in Nebraska, and you know, it didn't even feel like we got it halfway through the thing and it was over. You know, it's just one of the guys filled out really fast, but you know, as we say, time's flying, and things are kind of behind out here as far as harvest goes. So we've got a lot of stuff that's kind of coming to a bubble with you know, trucks running out here, getting cows moved off of pastures into corn stalks, and corn stalks moved into feedlots. So you know, lots going on in a short amount of time.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I hear you. I mean, it's just insane. But for those that don't remember Tim, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, Tim's one of the biggest outfitters, you know, in the Great Plains area, so basically Kansas and Nebraska. And are you doing anywhere else, Tim, or is that it pretty much?
No, that's it. We're
okay.
We're all the way in the northwest corner of Kansas, about an hour off the Colorado border, and about a half an hour to an hour and a half south of Nebraska, depending on where we're hunting. But we've got property scattered over 4 counties here, and then 1 county up in south central Nebraska as well.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So I always love to talk about Nebraska, so it's my favorite state. So give me a little what you got going on this year. Any new farms, new leases, any new hunting properties you want to talk about?
Nothing new. We're doing more of the same up there. We've already done a few hunts on the mule deer property for the opening weekend of or the opening week of archery, which up there they let you open on September 1st, as you probably know. It was a lot of fun. I had 4 people come in that were semi-guided, and they had good luck, but you know, it's spot and stock mule deer hunting is just not an easy thing to do, and the days are really long, and you get just a little bit of time in the afternoon to find them, and the next morning a lot of times you're chasing them down, trying to find them before they go to bed, and try to sneak up on them. So out of the 4 guys, and hopefully they aren't upset by me airing this, but there was just normal stuff happened. It was nothing against their group. You know, we had one guy got his first deer ever, his first mule deer at least. I think it was his first deer ever, though, so he was stoked. But unfortunately, another guy had stuck a nice one and lost it. Had another one of them had taken a shot and missed, and another one was trying to get a shot off and had a misfire. So it's just kind of balled up into a Murphy's Law kind of a trip for 3 out of the 4 of them. But, a lot of that stuff happens to anybody in bow hunting, and especially opening weekend. We're all rusty, and I'm not saying that they were rusty, and that might offend somebody, but I think that's probably saving grace because, we all go through that the first time of the year. I'm still going through that at the end of the year. But that hunt came and went, and I just had 2 hunters on the river. One of them killed the deer with his second morning, He hunted 2 full days and said he saw, I'll just say it because we can verify it easily through him on my Instagram, but he saw over 70 deer in those 2 full days, and the corn isn't even out yet, so the deer numbers are ridiculous again, and the hunting's been good. My other hunter did not fill his tag yet. We split up between the mule deer and the whitetail in the 5 days, and he was going to stay and start over on whitetail. I had to run home, so he's kind of on a to be continued. But he got into 2 good whitetail and 1 really good mule deer, and we just couldn't get the shot off.
Well, that's crazy. I know you're not going to say exactly where, Tim, but what kind of part of Nebraska?
We're close to off of I-80, and it's really okay about the location where we're at. It's really saturated with hunters and outfitters. I don't know if it's because it's right, probably because of where it's at. It's right between Denver and Omaha on I-80, and it's about 4 hours from each place. So it's just within reach for that long weekend, and being with the interstate, it gets a lot of people.
A lot of traffic that way.
The pressure's not bad, but it's all private, and there's a lot of leases. It's just kind of I don't know, it's been around for a while up there. So it's secure enough to say where we're at. We're right near Brady, like Tom Brady is where the property is, and we have 4 miles of the Platte River right there. And then we've got a 4,500 acre ranch south of that is leased for more mule deer and whitetail turkey hunting, but that's more of a on foot type of glassing and stalking type of a terrain than your typical tree stand hunting.
Right. That's south of I-80, that part you're saying?
The 4,500 it's between the Kansas state line and, sorry. Okay,
so is that just, is it more of a spot and stalk, less tree stand just because of the terrain itself, just a little more open, easier to glass?
Yeah, it is. When you're sitting there, there's a lot of cedars, and, almost to a fault. There's a lot of places you can't see. Even within 100 yards, you could have a herd of elk, and you just wouldn't know it until they got up and moved. It's just thick. But it's rolling hills. It's kind of, if anybody that's from Colorado listening, or South Dakota, it kind of looks like that kind of front range of Colorado, kind of rolling hills, cedars, and that kind of stuff. Awesome mule deer country. There's some really nice whitetail in that area too, but man, they're hard to get on. It's really hard to get on. You're lucky to even see them.
Wow, no kidding. It sounds like perfect deer habitat, though. It really does.
It is, and it's all established cattle ranches. So there's water. If there isn't water, which is a very arid part of out of the state there, but there's water tanks and windmills everywhere. So the deer tend to stick around. They get a little more concentrated around those areas, obviously, but some of those different leases in that area are a long way away from any kind of agriculture. It's just all grassland.
Right, man. Super cool, though. Super cool terrain, and it's crazy to think that, like you said, a herd of elk could literally hide somewhere like that right in front of you at 100 yards. You wouldn't see them until they're moving.
Yeah, and it really is. We've sat there and glassed before and I remember one time we're sitting on the tailgate talking, glassing like a mile away, when we first leased the property, not really knowing any better because, you get a new place, you kind of learn it as you go, and we were sitting there. We weren't even trying to be quiet. We're sitting there for 3 or 4 hours, and here come 8 does come out of the tree right below us. Never would in a million years would have thought there was anything in there. And it's funny looking back, we didn't even scour the trees below us to make sure there was nothing left. It was just one of those experiences you look back on and go, you just have to sit there and be patient and wait for your deer. If you don't, good luck. It probably isn't going to happen. But the country's awesome, and the tags are easy to get in Nebraska. You can buy a bow tag statewide for under $250 over the counter.
Right, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's good for either species too, so it's a pretty unique deal they got going.
It is. It's the best, and it's almost like sometimes I bite my tongue talking about it just because of that reason. And I'm like, it is, one of the only states around you can do that. Legitly, one of the only states you can do that. So yeah. It has a lot to offer.
Yeah, exactly. We're kind of the same ways, and not really wanting to say too much about it, but, the cat's out of the bag in some regard. We had a guy that kind of went off and did his own that worked for us, and he's there, and a couple other guys are trying it now, and now I hear somebody else is trying it, and there's only so much ink in the company well, so I after a while, the rifle tags are going to get hard to get a hold of, and it happens everywhere. It's a sad thing when you got a good thing going, everybody's going to come, but it's part of what we do. So what do you do? It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, perfect example, and I think I've talked about this before on some of the podcasts way back, but is West Central Illinois, man. It would legitly, it's still one of the greatest spots on earth to go hunt whitetail, and without a doubt it probably would be number one, but, it really got popular and flooded out with hunting, and it kind of just, brings the age structure down, but they're still killing upper end deer all the time there, and it's just one of those things where, if a spot's good, that stuff just is kind of the bad side of business, I guess. Bad side of a good business.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, nothing's going to go over well all the way around, and we see a little bit of that here in western Kansas too. But this area where we're at down here is a little more old school. There's not a lot of people that are willing to lease their property out here. It's more of a heritage thing, and I think that's good for hunting, and I think it's good for the community here. It's good for us too, because we obviously don't have a lot of people creeping in and trying to take our leases and that kind of stuff, because they're really hard to get. I really don't know how I got where I am here in Kansas. Honestly, I don't. I just have had good luck and some great support, so I'm glad about that. But it's not for a lack of trying. We've certainly had a lot of people that we've seen come back around trying to get into stuff, or even getting into stuff that we've been on, and it just goes with the territory, I suppose.
Yeah, it does. It's funny you said that, because out of all the guys I know, and probably you included, Tim, like when you talk to other guys and like, oh, where you hunt, where do you have leases, this and that, Kansas probably comes up the least amount in that conversation. And when it does come up, you're kind of like, oh, you have a lease in Kansas? Because it maybe it's just the culture out there, like you said, the heritage part. It is really difficult to get a piece of ground there.
It is. It's one side of the state's hard to get into because it's just like we talked about, and the other half is overly saturated. Over by Kansas City, there's an outfitter or a private lease on every single field, it seems like sometimes, and there's a lot of absentee owners over there where we tried to outfit on the east side over by Lacine, Kansas, south of Kansas City in 2014, and we got into some stuff, but it wasn't easy because it was already spoken for when we got there, and then somebody was looking to kind of start out with a different outfitter, so just a timing thing. But I'll tell you what, man, the hunting over there, they kill some big deer, but it's because every single place, and I shouldn't say every single place, I'm exaggerating, but by far more places on that side of the state are being hunted by non-resident hunters and outfitters than there are over here. So most of your deer are getting shot. There's a lot of good deer, don't get me wrong, and there's a lot of good hunting, but that's where a lot of the numbers come from, because that's where all the numbers are. It just is.
Yeah, it's just more of each, basically. Yep. So, exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, for those that don't know, because I always like to kind of re-educate people, Kansas is a different monster all itself, and Kansas is at the point now where you could buy a preference point. You have to put in ahead of time. It's a little bit harder for the non-resident to achieve that goal of just pulling up in Kansas and hunting there.
Yeah, that's right. Everything in the state of Kansas is by draw. There are some places that have leftovers like anywhere else, but if you really don't get into that draw, you're kind of not going to make it for this year. And the unit that we're in Unit 1, is traditionally the hardest unit to draw, and I think that is because of proximity. It is closest to Denver. And that goes a long way, because these units are huge. It's not like Unit 3 is 10 minutes east or south. It's another 45 minutes east. It's already a strong 4-hour drive. Now you're pushing 5. So everybody puts in for this unit first. It's not because it's the best hunting in the state, although it holds its own. We've killed some awesome deer here, as you've seen probably over the years, and other people have killed some amazing deer as well. It's just hard to draw. But when I say that, it's not that hard to draw. It's just the hardest one in the state, but that's just on a relative term. I think the last 2 years since they raised rates, we're higher, closer to 90% of people drawn in this unit, if I remember correctly, and that's on a historical stand. If you buy a point, you're a slam dunk.
Right.
But I've got guys that draw every single year, and they may always draw, that we haven't really seen an influx of numbers to where it looks like we're going to get saturated and there's enough tags around. I feel pretty secure. I mean, hell, we've been here for 9 seasons. So
yeah, that's good.
But we added Unit 2 now, and there actually are leftover tags that you can get, not for Unit 2, but roundabout. There's ways you can apply to neighboring units, and now we've actually added the option to where people can get to hunt Kansas with us now no matter what every year, which is a big step forward for us. We were always sending everybody to Nebraska who didn't draw, and now we're kind of sitting here wondering if we're going to keep Nebraska going or what we're going to do.
Right.
In the big picture, in the near term, we're definitely keeping Nebraska. It's too good not to,
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. And it, some guys just don't want to deal. Maybe it's guys maybe older than us, Tim. They don't want to deal with hard to get tags. A lot of guys like that preference of just pulling up, get to walk in a Walmart and buy their tag like they can in Nebraska. So probably a good idea if I'm with you there to make sure you keep running that Nebraska stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And with the numbers of deer we see up there, it's just such a fun hunt. It's so hard to even think about getting rid of it. But if you don't make it during that couple of weeks that Kansas has it open, you're shit out of luck till next year. So
right.
Pardon my French, but
that's fine.
But yeah, that's. I wish they would open it up a little bit more, but I just don't think they will. And that's part of the charm of why the deer can get a little bit bigger here too. So.
It is. There's something to it. Kansas is a special place, and when you think of the hard to get to, non-resident, those states, it's Kansas and it's Iowa. And when you think of those two, you think of monster bucks right off the hand, and it has to have something to do with, maybe just curving and restricting some of that non-resident influx and the age structure, it stays high. And, there's no doubt in my mind. So that is a good thing for you, and obviously a lot of the clients that, get to come out and hunt with you, that Kansas is like that, because it's obviously just a destination from everybody from the farthest part of the East Coast to the South, and guys here in the Midwest, we all want to come to Kansas.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny how people come here from all over all 48 and beyond. We've got guys that come here from Florida to Maine, and then from the West Coast, from Oregon down to California and everything in between. I think there's a couple of the small Northeast states we haven't had people from, I don't think, but pretty much all of them. And if you count the whole state, I'm sure you probably have most people from all over most of the globe eventually, or over time. But I don't know if Kansas is going to keep that reputation long term, but it seems like the short term, like talking 5 to 10 years, seems pretty dang strong. Looking at what keeps coming out consistently every single year.
Yeah, I hope so. I don't see that reputation changing. Kansas, will be a monster buck state, I think, for a very long time to come, and hopefully forever, because it's awesome. And when you think about it, you think of just exciting stuff out of that state, and just it's a dream. It's a dream state if you're a whitetail hunter. It's a top-notch destination. I love it. So one of my favorite states to hunt without a doubt, and I've been lucky enough to hunt it, 2 or 3 times now. But Tim, do you have any good deer there that you're pretty excited about this year?
Yeah, I've got a few actually, and I think you may have noticed I've been a little bit quieter this year about what deer I have.
Yeah, totally quiet. It's not like you, because I know Tim does a great job with those trail cameras, and I know he knows these deer, and he knows the age, and I was kind of like, man, I wonder what's going on, but I kind of have an idea of why you've been quiet.
Yeah. I've just kind of learned to kind of keep it to myself. I hear a lot of people saying things, and things come back skewed. But you hear a lot of the same stuff consistently, and a lot of these people say a lot of things. And one of the things you hear the most is, they shoot all the deer and they kill all the big deer. Well, we're not going to keep killing deer if we're killing all the big deer. And I see a lot of stands popping up on my borders. There's a lot of people that are kind of leering around on the internet that are that have been watching what deer we post. I know that sounds paranoid, but I know for a fact that people have figured out where some cameras have sat. They've walked by them. They have seen the topography, or they've hunted here before, and they know exactly where that stand and that camera is. I see it all the time. I put a picture up the other day, and someone said, I've seen that one. Like, shit, man, that's the reason that I blocked out the background.
Right.
You know, if you keep that to yourself, there's a reason I did it. And poaching has become, you know, it's always been a problem everywhere in the country, but I've got to protect our hunters, our investments, and our neighbors. And our neighbors, some of them don't care for the outfitting stuff. We got to try to make them as happy as we can. And I know we're not going to make everybody happy all the time, but I know I can make people a lot more angry if I wanted to. So I try to pay attention and I try to tread lightly. You know, there's a lot of people who may argue that, but you know, that it's there. And this year, the pictures have been something I've toned down to kind of keep people from coming in and applying here, thinking, oh, this is the place to go. I'm going to go apply for Unit 1. I'll show up. It'll be easy. And they get out here, and I'm telling you right now, Brandon, I'm looking out my window and I see, I don't know, 25 cattle, and I see one row of trees that was planted, and I can see probably 3 miles. And there's nothing out here. I mean, it's like, there are creek bottoms, obviously, but the most of this country out here is probably more than 98% open. And
right.
You know, people get here and they go, "What the hell am I doing here?"
Yeah, they do.
If you don't know where to look, there's no woods. So that said, when they do find them, then we can have problems with people, you know, pressuring deer just from driving by and glassing and doing that on down to doing illegal things or unethical things. So I've kept the big ones under my hat, and I'm going to just show the results this year. I've decided. We'll see how it goes. My phone's not ringing as much, but I'm not seeing what I was seeing that made me alarmed. So that's made me kind of feel like I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, for sure. If you're not seeing that kind of you know, sneaky pressure from other people, whoever they may be. I mean, I think that's a good thing. And like you said earlier in the conversation, just, you know, that's a top-notch way for you to think of your clients, man. And that's super important.
Well, thanks. And I hope they, you know, they really know. A lot of them, you know that we put everything we can into it. But, you know, I try not to, I don't know. I'm not trying to toot my horn, but I also want people to know what they're getting into, because it's a lot of money to spend, and it's a lot of, you know, you lose two huge things. You lose your vacation time and you lose your money, and then you lose your dream, and you're coming out here on a hunt that may be the only time you ever get to do it. And somebody has got to be watching out for you, man, because there's a lot of people out here who will take. And I'm not saying people who live here are bad. There's a lot of awesome people here, but there is a bad element. And just like there is in every single place in this country, whether we want to admit it or not, they're out there. And I think a lot of times the people who are here that are hiding in the shadows are worse than the ones that they're blaming the problem on. You know, there's enough evidence out there to support that. I would think either way you want her to be on either side of that debate, but certainly covering up and keeping these deer that are over 180 or 160, or, you know, character bucks that, you know, look like a walking fingerprint that, you know, people say, oh, shit, I've seen that deer, and Tim's on it. Now, well, I need to go hunt that deer right now because he's got a picture of it. And then all of a sudden, you know, the deer's gone.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, just kind of shut up about it and kind of trying to lay low. We've got 8 seasons of experience, and I'm kind of letting that speak for us. And we'll just see. I mean, every year it seems like you grow and learn, and you know, if you're not losing, sometimes you're not learning anything. So I'm just try to take it in stride and move on.
Yeah, you got to tweak stuff and see if that's a better outcome. So sounds like you're doing that, which is good. And I know that's probably a little bit of some personal growth for you, because it's kind of like, you know, when we like deer so much, it's kind of like it's a part of you, and you actually like to share that picture, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's fun. It's exciting. And, you know, to not do that, it does get pretty hard, because you feel like it's a victory just to even get a photo of one, because they're so damn smart and good at what they do.
Yeah, so. You're right. You're right. The trophy pictures, or the pictures of the heads or the deer walking around, you know, alive. I value a lot of that times a lot more than even the trophy picture, because you can get it. If you can get them in front of your camera 40 times, I mean, you're doing something right. And they're awesome animals, and just to see one daylighting is really cool. We just got a picture of 3 together, and I just put it on our Instagram. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but
no, I didn't.
What a cool shot that was, you know. And I don't know. It's cool to keep those in the archives, and I still have pictures from 2011 that I have kept on my computer just because, you know, and it is hard not sharing that stuff, because that's part of the passion for me and for a lot of us is seeing that and sharing it with others, because the camaraderie is huge. And, you know, it isn't all about business. It's about hunting. And and doing what we love. But sooner or later, it just doesn't take much to ruin it for everybody else. And the internet is a dangerous place for for anything, let alone things like that. So
yeah, it is. It is. It's just funny because, like I said, I don't think people just think it's a trail camera photo of a deer or a nice looking buck walking by, but it is the day you didn't want to go pull that card, and it's an hour walk there and back, and you did it. To validate the effort you put in usually to get pictures of awesome deer like that, and that's kind of part of the reward is, holy cow, he walked by in daylight. It's just, there's a lot of cool things with running cameras.
Yeah, exactly. And finally getting them on camera. How many batteries and SD cards did we burn out, and how many times did we walked away and had a camera that wasn't turned on, or someone stole a card, or a flood came and took away. I mean, you could go through countless things to get that one picture. Finally, oh, here it is, and then wow, there's 3 of them. Holy shit,
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It's really pretty much my favorite part of the job, and it's never ending. We run cameras all year round.
Yeah. No, it is ridiculous. Like last week, I went in, hunted a spot. I hadn't been in there in at least 14, 16 days. And that was actually to, make a scrape, put the camera up, didn't go in there until I hunted it, pulled the camera, took 3 photos. Those 3 photos were of me. And I'm like, come on. How did this camera not function until I literally walked by it or got out of the stand and refreshed the scrape and did all that good stuff?
Yeah.
Then I go another 250 yards to the field edge, down, went to check down to the north, went to check that camera because, it was late in the morning and I knew I wasn't going to pressure nothing. Somehow I amazingly did not push that SD card in all the way. So back to back in one day, no pictures, 2 cameras on the same farm. Talk about disappointing, but that's part of the reason when you do get those photos, it's so damn rewarding, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't take a lot to get human error to interfere with us.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So you got guys coming in this week, Tim?
I do. Yeah, Friday. We were going to have some people come in early, and I kind of like to get an early start, if we can, because we got a lot of customers that are within a day trip of us from being at 4 hours to 10, but this year we've got nothing special for weather going right now. It was really cool 2 weeks ago. We had a snowstorm and we had some good rain and good reasons to be out hunting, but right now it's looking the same way today as it will be on Friday. Plus there's a full moon. I should know the exact date, but it's got to be coming either tonight or tomorrow. It was freaking daylight last night. So I kind of just let everybody come in on Friday like they're supposed to. I'd love getting a jump start. I just don't see any reason to get somebody out here and start getting frustrated right off the bat.
Right.
The weather isn't bad. It just isn't good. It's just kind of average. But 26 is always the traditional start in Kansas, and we'll be starting here then, and we'll run pretty strong for about 20 days. And we don't have the numbers this year as we did last year. And I advertise my deer numbers from the guys who come to the guys who kill every year, and I always will, even if we have a bad year. I'm transparent. I want people to know what the heck they're getting into here, and I know I don't have 87 hunters this year. It's less than that by whatever reason. I don't know why. We had a lot of people call this year that would have normally booked this year that booked next year instead. So we made it. Everything's cool. We're not hurting, but we're going to have an awesome 2019 because we're definitely under this year, and we have a better land to hunter ratio than we ever have. I mean, I added a ton of property this year. Some of it just landed on my lap, and some of it actually it all kind of landed on my lap. I'm a pretty lucky guy, and the stuff kind of landed on me, and I have some awesome people helping me, and now we've got these other acres. I mean, there's 9. I'm not trying to brag about the acres, but it's literally 9,000, over 9,000 new acres that are all new. It's on top of last year's growth. I'm like, holy crap.
That's a great chunk. That's exciting. I mean, that's exciting because you don't get a lot of, you're not a one-man show, but you're self-employed outfitter, so you're doing part of the work all the time and, running guides and guys out to their stand the whole 9 yards. And that's a ton of extra land for, not what I hate to say a small outfit, Tim, but, a small working group is what I mean. So that is a huge amount of land, which I think makes your place extra special.
Yeah, I thank you for saying that. I like to think that we have set ourselves aside from the other places out there because we don't do the lodge. The lodge, and I'm not knocking the lodge. Do I want a big, whatever size lodge for myself? Yeah, that'd be really cool to have. But when it comes down to it, and the guys who have those lodges are going to have to admit this is true, those are for the guys who own the lodge. Those aren't for the guys that are coming hunting. I mean, there are certain people in the hunting industry, or not the hunting industry, and I kind of hate that term, but in the hunting business that are doing it for comfort for their people. But there's a lot of it that's really just for them, and it's cool. You know what? This is America. If you want to build a huge lodge, that's awesome, but I would rather have acres. And I know my hunters would rather have acres. I've never had anybody come in here and go, man, you know what? I just wish this comforter was a little bit nicer. What they want is deer hunting. And, we have more acres, we have more stands, we have more deer, and we have a higher kill rate than anybody that I know. And I'm not saying we're the best, but it's worked, and people are happy with that. And it is, those lodges are $500,000, $600,000 to even think about building. You know how much it's expensive to lease land, but that could go a long damn way.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe I'm just on a different thought process, but give me a shower, a place that's warm to sleep at night. I'm
right.
Cool. I would rather have that extra 9,000 acres because you never know when a spot's going to have trouble. It could be outside interference. It could be the DNR just caught a ring of poachers. You don't even know. So it's nice to have that freaking extra ground. I would rather, me personally, Tim, 100 times to 1, I will always take the extra ground versus a fancy stone fireplace.
Yeah, exactly. And there's places for those things, and if people want those, I always, refer them to other outfitters. Like, if that's what you're after, first and foremost, this is a vacation, you want comfort, and you want to hang out somewhere, maybe drink scotch more than you want to go out and sit in a stand in the wind and driving rain. I get it. Hey, that's cool, but that ain't me. Our places are clean, they're comfortable, they're accommodating, they have everything you need. But the land is where the money is spent, and like you said, people want the land more than they want those things, and we've kind of listened to them and done that. I mean, I grew up hunting elk in Colorado and mule deer, and we stayed in a vinyl tent in October, and it was freaking cold, and we laid out on the ground. I mean, we grew up hunting the worst way possible, a national forest with rifles and vinyl tents, and it's just horrible. I would never do that again, like never.
Right. Yeah.
But a hotel room to me is like awesome, but to take a cabin or whatever where I can walk out the door to a tree stand, absolutely. And it just kind of drives, it works.
Yep, for sure. I know we talked about kind of the Kansas side, but do you have any good deer or mule deer in the Nebraska side you're excited about?
Yeah, we got on a really nice mule deer the other day. The last morning that we hunted mule deer for 3 days. It's a 5-day hunt. Excuse me, I've got a really bad cold that I caught in Vegas, and it's still hanging on. But excuse me again. But this one mule deer we got on the last morning that we tried we got right about 60 yards away from him, and a doe had us pinned on the left. And this deer, we were just glassing, and it had snowed, and it was like frozen snow. Like I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but it was the crunchy
frozen snow,
no wind.
Yeah.
Crusty, crunchy shit you can.
Yeah, the loud stuff.
Yeah, and we decided to go up the bottom of the draw instead because there's a lot of cattle trails in the bottom of the canyons, and we just go down there and glass and see what we see. And I was glassing for about an hour, and we're starting to kind of lose hope. That time of the morning that you start getting the stomach pains and want maybe a cup of coffee, and the deer aren't moving. And I looked in this bush, and I'm like, oh man, that is a freaking monster. It was, all I could see was a chocolate rack sideways laying down looking into the sun. It was like shining. It was like a beacon, but you could barely see it. It was like several hundred yards away, but it was just heavy, thick, black, big brow tines on a mule deer. Beautiful deer. And God, we got close, and this deer at the last minute busted us, and it was heartbreaking, but it was so cool to get that close to him. I got some pictures on my phone. I didn't post a lot of them except for head on, so I didn't ID the deer, because he was pretty unique. But him, absolutely. And I don't know if you remember Julie McLean or not, but she come out and hunted with me on the 1st of September and hung out for a day or 2.5 days with me, and I got a little I'd say a little buck, but a nice 10-point buck. And we saw a really good one opening morning. We were just getting settled in the tree stand, and I had a rangefinder, and I was just ranging stuff, and I saw this floating stuff coming through the grass. The grass is super high because we had a ton of rain this year, and it was 3 racks that you couldn't see the deer bodies. All you could see was their horns moving. And you know how your eyes get kind of blurry in the morning in that weird twilight, and then it was like, oh, man, there's 3 bucks right there. And I had the rangefinder already, and I ranged them at 43, and that one had velvet, tall, heavy, big main beam on them, but they were looking right at us, and they had her pinned. She couldn't get drawn, and they scootered off, and we didn't get them. But, yeah, I'm super excited about that deer, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get them up close and personal on our camera here in the next few weeks.
No kidding. That's cool. Both those deer sound beautiful, so that's pretty neat. Yeah,
it's fun, man. That was a fun hunt this year. I don't know if you ever hunted Nebraska or ever hunted whitetail and velvet, but I did it for the first time this year, and I tell you what, I absolutely fell in love with it. It was a lot of fun, and we saw a ton of deer. We saw like 10 bucks in 2.5 days.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's fun, and they're just, they're summer bucks. They're not scared of anything really.
Yeah, that's right.
They're nervous, but they're not like they are in November.
Yeah, I don't know how that's worked out, but that has evaded me through my bow hunting career so far. I have not done a early September velvet hunt for whitetail yet, so it's on my hit list for sure. I need to get on that here pretty quickly, but it's always been kind of fascinating just on the side of what you just touched on, Tim, just that they're kind of in those pattern bowl, routine still, and they're just a little more calm, they seem to be at that time of year, and they're just not quite the freak they are when that velvet comes off.
Yep, exactly. And they're just starting to get cool, and they still have their summer coats, so they just don't seem like they're really bothered by the heat, like they do a little bit later in the year, and they start packing some pounds on. And I'll tell you what, I know a guy, if you wanna go up there sometime, we should try it out. It's a little. You could even go hunt doves some people are like, man, that's their dove hunting time with their kids, but you could always go do that over lunch. But the tags and the way that hunt went, I mean, you're not going to kill a Boone and Crockett deer up there in that area where we're at on the I-80 corridor. I just don't think it's made for it because it's on the interstate alone, let alone rifle season in Nebraska. But
that does hurt.
Yeah, it does. But there are a lot of really nice deer, Pope and Young on up to 150, even into the 60s sometimes. And that's a better buck than most of us will ever shoot. They're there, but it doesn't, like I say, it doesn't have that real big threat like you get in Kansas. But even when you're here, I mean, those are still anomalies.
Yeah, that is anywhere. I mean, that's outbrand deer, and I say it all the time to one of my buddies. I will never ever get tired of shooting 150 class to 160 class. I could never even shoot enough in my lifetime. They're hard to kill. That's a 4-year-old deer in most places with good genetics. So that is a very tough deer to kill, and like I said, you don't even get the opportunity enough times in a lifetime. So I'm always down for that. That's a good number to shoot
Absolutely.
for. For sure. But sadly, Tim, I got to run to another meeting. But let everybody know where they can find you, and hopefully we'll catch up on another in-season report when you guys start knocking down some deer.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, man. Hopefully we can talk next week, and I want to thank you again for making me a part of your show. This is totally an honor, and I love doing it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody who's listened. If you want to follow what we're doing, the best way to get my information, aside from the trail cam photos that we talked about, even though I post quite a bit, I don't post what I used to, but find my Instagram, just search Red Dog Outfitters and you'll pull me right up, or Google Red Dog Outfitters and you'll find me through my website there. We've got a blog on there with recipes and all kinds of cool stuff too, so check it out when you get a chance, and we've got a Facebook page and everything else as well, but Instagram is the best way to see what we're doing day in and day out.
For sure. And every week, guys, that you can find us on Outdoor Podcast Channel. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Play. It's kind of endless, so just look up Take Aim Outdoors, Take Aim Podcast on Instagram, and also, like we announced a couple weeks ago, now on the Unfiltered app. So any device, iOS or Android, you can find us on the Unfiltered app as well. So, Tim, can't wait till next week, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Likewise, thank you.
All right, thanks.